Hoi hoi! It's louisity again, and for this reading vlog, I'm going to be reading It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Hoorah! So if you've watched my book haul video, I borrowed this from my colleague. His name is March, and I need to read this as soon as possible because the next time that we meet, I have to return it. So I decided this will be the next book that I'm going to be reading, and this is one of those books that are really popular right now, and honestly, I'm curious about it. I like mixing my reading lists or the things that I read from popular ones to not so popular ones, and I'm definitely curious about how I'm going to be feeling about this one. So, yeah. Gotta get into some romance, so we'll see what I'll think about it. Whoa! So here's a reading update. Now I've read like more than 100 pages of It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, and I have to say that so far I like the setting. It makes me curious about when I stroll around, Boston, and how the condominiums and like the apartment's gonna look like. And this follows the story so far of a neurosurgeon and a plantita, and there is this character named Atlas who is a homeless guy, who we are still going to figure out like what will be his connection in the story. I feel so far that I'm reading two separate stories. At first, I couldn't really connect with a narrative about like Atlas, but like, who knows, maybe there's something going to be intriguing. I feel like there's something about this novelist's chill, but it will surprise me for some reason. And the characterization of Lyle is kind of, the not so nice guy, the naughty guy that personally for me I wouldn't want to be friends with. I don't know, but I think that it was effective so far. I'm not yet that blown away, but I think so far it's pretty decent. I mean, compared to like Ugly Love, I think that this one is like stronger. We'll find out like how I will feel with how the narratives are going to be described. So, I'll catch folks later. Wow. I also noticed that the books that I've been reading had something to do with planting. Like, with Arushan, the Tree of Wishes, they were in like a garden, and then here, Lily is a gardener or a plant enthusiast. Like I said, a plantita. What's with plants these days? They kind of like match my life. Well, I'm not really into gardening. It's just my brother and my mother. So I'm nearly 200 pages in with reading It Ends With Us, and I like the fact where Lily mentioned about like, the problems of a country, how, the government should be like more supportive of people that are being like homeless and all that stuff, and how like Atlas answer was like, it's not the government's fault that the mom or Atlas's mom doesn't know how to take care of them, or how parents don't really know how to take care of like their children and all that. It's an interesting thing to reflect on, like who should hold the responsibility when it comes to that. Something that, should be discussed, like, should dole-outs be given because, the government should serve its people, and at the same time, should we hold like people more accountable, and how are we gonna hold or help people have that sort of value? Like how can we teach like people as much as we teach like honesty, love, compassion, faith, in terms of accountability? It's something that, has to be taught to people, and that, so that when they grow up, whether they're going to be parents or, they're going to take another vocation in their life, they will be accountable. And I'm already in the part where, warning for everyone, there's of course domestic violence involved in this story, and I'm already getting to that part. Lily already saw Atlas again, and yeah, and the first fight scene was kind of intense. A brawl in Atlas's like restaurant, it was really intense. And yeah, so far I was already able to immerse in the narrative when I was reading like the letters of Lily to Ellen about Atlas. So yeah, and I feel bad for Lily because as much as she doesn't want to turn out like to be her mother, but she's kind of like, the things that her mother experienced and her mother thinks is like she's already doing that in the name of love. And yeah, it's like how sometimes there are things that we don't like, but suddenly we turn out to be like them, or we turn out to be those things that we don't like to be, or we don't like amongst others. Yeah, well, a lot of thoughts to be pondered, so catch folks later. So I'm more than 300 pages already in It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, and I'd have to say so far the things that I've read, the scenes about like the domestic abuse, which by the way you gotta be aware of when you're gonna be reading this one, was vividly shown, and it's gonna make you feel angry. It's gonna, unleash emotions out of you. And I like how, it talked about Lily's like thought process on why she wanted to stay and all that, kind of like holding on to some memories or holding on to what their future would be like, a lot of the what ifs that like were running in her head. And what else, I like the part where she mentioned that like she wants to let go of the other things associated with Atlas because she was kind of trying to forget. And I don't know, when I was reading this one, I was just like, ooh, that was just like really bad. And like, I'm like, Lily, just go for it, go for it, go for it. Like, get away from this relationship. And, there are so many things that like, going to be talked about here. Like, what about people that are suffering from like anger management and all that? And, how much like leeway should be done, how much help, or do these people want to get help? Probably a lot do, but what are the things that are being done? What are the actions that are being taken in order for them to get better? Or do people just want to stay in that situation? It's like a lot of things were running in my head basically when I was like reading this book, and I felt like it was timely for me personally, just because I kind of like came from like a friendship fallout. So it's like I kind of wanted to get out of like the emotional gymnastics that were happening to me. And honestly, it's not comparable to like what Lily went through, but you know what, this book so far makes me think of that song Gusto Ko Nang Bumitaw. It's a Filipino song folks listen to it, especially the Yes My Love version, but you can also listen to Morissette Amon's, or yeah, that's how you pronounce her name, Morissette's or Sharon Rehis's like versions. The song is really beautiful. Like if you find out what it means in English, it's about like letting go. Sometimes you're having this sort of tug of war. Your heart isn't, you know, having a tug of war, but you know, you got to make a choice and you got to choose yourself. Hashtag self-love. It's time for us to pick our next read from the Fate Jar. If you've been watching my reading vlogs, you're already familiar with this one. So I'm going to be shaking it, shaking it. And I'm going to look at the camera. I'm positive that this is what I think it is. Hopefully, it is what I think it is. Oh, okay, so this is going to be my next read then. They realized that I used like an entire paper. I'm finally going to be moving forward to the Wheel of Time series. I'm going to be reading Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. Hoorah! So we're going to be reading a fantasy again. Now it's an epic fantasy, and I gotta brace myself in reading it. So I just finished reading It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, and I have to say that there were parts in the last part that really struck me. That conversation between Lily and her mother, like about breaking the cycle, breaking the pattern, like how it gets harder and harder when you continually give like passes to someone who's been hurting you, and like how, say, someone hurt you once, you're like, okay, let's give them another chance, or the second time around, you continually give them like passes. It gets really harder. Sometimes it has to do with the whole like which one weighs more, the love or hating somebody, or say liking or disliking somebody, or like the good or the bad, which weighs more, kind of like a negative bias kind of thing. And it's very relatable to like a lot of people who are undergoing like making hard decisions about, you know, sometimes you gotta do like what is best, you know, for the situation, and thinking about, should I, you know, like continually go through the process? Should the cycle repeat and repeat? Should it be a cycle? Somebody has to break it. And I like Alyssa's like characterization. I think that she was described in a manner where she is objective, like despite being Ryle's sister, you know, Alyssa wanted to, you know, to have the best experience for Lily, like for Lily to, you know, make the best choice. I like the fact that Alyssa's like, don't let my brother come back in your life, kind of like that. So it's really amazing how that was like described. And, you know, kind of like I'm trying to contemplate about certain things, about, you know, how sometimes it's harder because of like the good things that were happening, but like what's going to be best in the long run. And kind of like that's what Lily was deciding after her pregnancy, after she gave birth to her child. So something very interesting. I think like overall the depiction was really well, and I don't consider this as a series or a duology, but I'm definitely excited about like It Starts With Us, about what's going to happen. And overall, to me, the reading experience is really, you know, good. Like nothing for me personally that was grandiose to be like in the 4.5 and above kind of side, but it was a pretty good reading experience in a manner wherein the scenes really made an impact, and it's contemplative, and how, you know, how it's going to make you think about like, do you choose yourself, your self-worth, And I like that part where they were talking about self-worth. It was really a beautiful way to narrate it. And yeah, it's a book where you can learn a lot of things. So I'd have to give this book 4.25 out of 5 stars. And it also tackled about what it means, for better or worse, or till death do us part. So that is a sentence that the book sort of dealt with. If you've made it this far, leave a bag emoji, and I hope you folks liked this video, and if you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, click that subscribe button and hit that little bell icon somewhere down there to keep yourselves posted about my videos. I also put down links and handles of my social media accounts, so feel free to check me out and follow me there as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. Always be thankful and unleash the reader in you. Bye, y'all. Mwah.